Brewster, in the work attributed to Lowry, seeks to find a common origin for the Freemasons and the Essenes, and supports his opinion by the following facts, which, if they do not sustain the truth of his hypothesis, are certainly confirmed by other authorities. He says, when a candidate was proposed for admission, the strictest scrutiny was made into his character. If his life had hitherto been exemplary, and if he appeared capable of curbing his passions and regulating his conduct according to the virtuous though austere maxims of the order, he was presented at the expiration of his novitiate with a white garment as an emblem of the regularity of his conduct and the purity of his heart. A solemn oath was then administered to him that he would never divulge the mysteries of the order, that he would make no innovations on the doctrines of the society, and that he would continue in that honorable course of piety and virtue which he had begun to pursue. Like Freemasons, they instructed the young members in the knowledge which they derived from their ancestors. They admitted no women into their order. They had particular signs for recognizing each other, which have a strong resemblance to those of Freemasons. They had colleges or places of retirement where they resorted to practice their rites and settle the affairs of the society. And after the performance of these duties, they assembled in a large hall where an entertainment was provided for them by the president or master of the college, who allotted a certain quantity of provisions to every individual. They abolished all distinctions of rank, and if preference was ever given, it was given to piety, liberality, and virtue. Treasurers were appointed in every town to supply the wants of indigent strangers. Footnote: Lowry, History of Freemasonry, edition 1804, page 34. Josephus gives the Essenian oath more in extenso. He tells us that before being admitted to the common meal, that is, before advancement to full membership, the candidate takes an oath that he will exercise piety toward God and observe justice toward men, that he will injure no one either of his own accord or by the command of others, that he will hate the wicked and aid the good, that he will be faithful to all men, especially to those in authority, that if ever placed in authority, he will not abuse his power nor seek to surpass those under him in the costliness of his garments or decorations, that he will be a lover of truth and a reprover of falsehood, that he will keep his hands clear from theft and his soul from unlawful gains, that he will conceal nothing from the members of his own sect, nor reveal their doctrines to others, even at the hazard of his life, nor will he communicate those doctrines to anyone otherwise than as he has himself received them. And finally, that he will preserve inviolate the books of the sect and the names of the angels. This last expression is supposed to refer to the secrets connected with The tetragrammation, or four-lettered name, and the other names of God and the angelical hierarchy, which are comprised in the mysterious theosophy taught by the Kabbalists and accepted, it is said, by the Essenes. The mystery of the name of God was then, as it is now, a prominent feature in all Oriental philosophy and religion. I am inclined to the opinion of Burnet, who says that the Essenes were less a sect of religion than a kind of religious order or association of zealous and pious men whom the desire of attaining an exalted state of perfection had united together. Footnote: Brunet, Parallèles des Religions, page 6, section 44. But whether they were one or the other, any hypothesis which seeks to connect them with Freemasonry through the Knights Templars is absolutely untenable. At the time of the Crusades, and indeed long before, the Essenes had ceased to hold a place in history. What little remained of them was to be found in settlements about the northwestern shore of the Dead Sea. They had decreased almost to a fraction in numbers, and had greatly corrupted their doctrines and their manners, ceasing, for instance, to be celibate and adopting the custom of marriage, while they had accepted much of the philosophy of Plato, of Pythagoras, and of the school of Alexandria. They still retained, however, their Judaic faith and much of their primitive austerity, and it is therefore improbable that there could have been any congenial intercommunion between them and the Templars. Their poverty and insignificance would have supplied no attraction to the knights, and their austerity of manners and Judaism would have repelled them. As to the similarity of Essenism and Freemasonry in the establishment by each of a brotherhood distinguished by love, charity, and a secret initiation, we can draw no conclusion from these coincidences that there was a connection of the two associations, since the same coincidences will be found in all fraternities, ancient and modern. They arise from no spirit of imitation or fact of descent, but are the natural outgrowth of the social condition of man, which is ever developing itself in such mystical and fraternal associations. But this subject will be treated more at length when, in a subsequent chapter of this work, I come to treat of the theory which deduces Freemasonry from Essenism by a direct descent without the invocation of a Christian chivalric medium. It has, however, become inevitable, in considering the secret societies of the East at the period of the Crusades, to anticipate to some extent what will have to be hereafter said. The Druses were another mystical religion with which the Templars are said to have come in contact, and from whom they are said to have derived certain dogmas and usages which were transmitted to Europe and incorporated into the system of Freemasonry. Of the communication of the Templars with the Druses, There is some evidence, both traditional and historic, but what influence that communication had upon either Templarism or Masonry is a problem that admits only of a conjectural solution. The one posed by King in his work on the Gnostics will hereafter be referred to. The Drusses are a mystical sect who have always inhabited the southern side of Mount Lebanon and the western side of Anti-Lebanon, extending from Beirut in the north to Sur in the south, and from the shores of the Mediterranean to the city of Damascus. They trace their origin to Hakim, who was Sultan of Egypt in 926, but derive their name from Mohammed ben Israel Darasi, under whose leadership they fled from Egypt in the 10th century and settled in Syria, in that part around Lebanon, which they still inhabit. Their religion appears to be a mixture of Judaism, Christianity, and Mohammedanism, although what it precisely it is impossible to tell, since they keep their dogmas a secret, which is imparted only to those of their tribe who have passed through a form of initiation. Of this initiation, Churchill says that there is a probation of 12 months before the candidate can be admitted to full membership. In the second year, the novitiate having been complete, the Druze is permitted to assume the white turban as a badge of his profession, and is permitted to participate in all the mysteries of his religion. These mysteries refer altogether to dogma, for their religion is without ceremonies of any kind, and even without prayer.